News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Iran and Oman are discussing how to set up a permanent toll system through the Strait of Hormuz. The move would formalize its control of maritime traffic through the strait. The U.S., Europe, and Gulf Arab states oppose Iran's control over the strait, which they consider international waters. They're concerned about the precedent it could set for freedom of navigation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We've always said a tolling system in the straits would be unacceptable, but we don't just say that. The world has said that.
Iran refuses to reopen the Strait of Hormuz until the U.S. agrees to lift its naval blockade of Iranian ports. Retired U.S. Army General and former CIA Director David Petraeus says the country might have to return to war to show Iran how serious the U.S. is about reopening the strait.
Right now, they are insistent that they are given control of the strait. And that they are able to charge tolls for it. That's just, I think, unacceptable. And it may be that we have to go back to war to show them that we're pretty serious about this.
To hear more of our interview with retired U.S. Army General David Petraeus, tune in this Saturday morning on Bloomberg This Weekend. President Trump has played down the need to further ratchet up pressure on the Cuban government, telling reporters at the White House that he will do something about Cuba.
Look, it's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food. And we're going to help them along, and we're going to help them because number one, I want to help them. I don't want to on a humanitarian basis.
Trump made the comment a day after the U.S. government filed murder charges against former Cuban President Raul Castro. A standoff between the U.S. and Iran over key issues lifted oil prices, dragging down stocks and bonds on concerns that a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz could worsen energy disruptions and fuel inflation. We check markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 down 0.4%, NASDAQ down 0.5%, the Dow down 0.25%, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.6%, and the 2-year yield at 4.09%. WTI nearing $101 a barrel and Brent crude nearing $107 a barrel. Nvidia is trying to convince skeptical investors that AI is going mainstream as it aims to rely less on giant data center operators and predicts other businesses and governments will become a bigger source of revenue. Nvidia shares about 2% lower. IBM shares are more than 7% higher as it landed U.S. funding to back its $2 billion quantum chip venture. Sources tell Bloomberg Oura Health has filed confidentially for a U.S. initial public offering. The company is working with several financial groups, including Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, on the IPO, and they plan to go public later this year. Oura has gained a following with consumers looking to measure their health metrics with something less cumbersome than a watch. It's make or break for Republicans. They're racing to pass their party line bill, giving tens of billions of dollars to carry out President Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. Senators could start a marathon series of amendment votes as soon as today for what could be the GOP's last major piece of legislation before the midterms. If all goes according to Republicans' plans, the Senate will ship the bill to the House by either the end of today or early Friday morning. Walmart shares are more than 7% lower after it warned fuel costs are squeezing the company's bottom line and could lead to higher prices for shoppers. More with David Bellinger at Mizuho. He's a senior equity analyst.
That's what hit them today. Talked about 250 basis points that was shaved off of operating income dollar growth because of higher fuel costs. But I think what's concerning investors today is that that's only a partial period impact for Q1.
David Bellinger at Mizuho. In the latest quarter, Walmart said comparable sales rose 4.1%, excluding fuel, slightly better than what Wall Street analysts expected. Fewer Americans filed for jobless aid last week, layoffs remaining low despite a number of uncertainties that continue to cloud the economy. The Labor Department reported applications for unemployment benefits for the week fell by 3,000 to 209,000. That's fewer than the 213,000 new applications that analysts forecast. U.S. manufacturing activity expanded in May by the most in 4 years in a stockpiling rush, customers striving to get ahead of the mounting price pressures tied to the war in Iran. The S&P Global Flash May Factory Purchasing Managers Index rose 0.8% to 55.3. Anything above 50 indicates expansion. Meteorologists predict a developing El Nino could dampen the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season, but it won't eliminate storms. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration forecasts a below-average season season with fewer named storms and hurricanes. Colorado State University expects the lowest activity since 2015. The hurricane season begins June 1st and ends November 30th. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.